Hi guys, welcome back to Always and Forever podcast. I'm your host Trin, the hostess with the mostest. I love saying that. Okay. I for real, I be just saying that like randomly in my room, like when I'm by myself, I just be like in the mirror, "Hi guys." But like I used to always do that as a kid. Like just never mind. Let me get actually started. Like I need to get this. Need to get this. Okay. So today, God had me. Well, let's retract. Yes. Over this past week or so, I really have been learning and meditating on the quiet life. And what I mean by this is like the life where you're not doing too much, you're not too busy, you're able to just relax and really meditate on who God is. And one moment in my life that I can really say aligns with that whole quiet life idea is last year in the summertime because I I'm kind of used to being a busybody and I didn't realize how sometimes being like overworking yourself and being too busy can kind of be self-righteous because you want to be like everywhere at once. And so like last year, I kind of got used to having like a packed schedule. Like I was going from school and then I was trying to post on TikToks and I was trying to be consistently, being active on my social media. And I was trying to also go to work after. And I was just doing a whole bunch. And during the summertime, it all stopped. Like school was out. I quit my job and I thought I was going to be able to like get a new job right after, but I didn't. And I was just very like I went from being so busy to not being busy at all and I had so much time to just do like I didn't know what to do with it. And so I remember like at first not being used to it and feeling like very unproductive because me sometimes I kind of measure my productivity as in how much stuff I do in a day. Like if I get all this done, I was productive. And the way God has shifted my idea towards that is like, okay, you got all of this done, but where did you go? Like you did so many different things, but none of those things really set you up for the next thing that I have for you. And so in that time, I'm like, dang, I'm not doing nothing. Like I'm just sitting in the house all day, and I felt really like bummy. Like I felt like a bum. Like I didn't have no job. It's Friday. You ain't got no job. Like you ain't got nothing to do. Like hello. And I just remember just being very bored and like sick of like sitting in one place. But I feel like God giving me that time was really a grace because I am really a certified busybody. I push myself to like the brink. I push myself to the edge like and I was doing too much and I feel like that was God really blessing me and saying sit down, like chill, take a breather. And in that time I was able to really I was able to focus my mind back on him because it's so easy to get distracted. Like there's so much going on in the world and so it's like always easy just to, get distracted of what's going on at school, what's going on at work, what's going on here and there. It's like I was always like struggling keeping my mind set on him because there was so much going on. And so during that time, it was like he sat me down so I could refocus and I could just dedicate each day strictly to him. And at that time, like I learned a lot of things about me and about who he is because it gave me so much time to self reflect and it gave me a lot of time to like look at myself and, you know, give and surrender the things that are not of him to him. And it's like I was able to be like, okay, Trinity, like you need to stop doing this. Like checking my heart daily. I was able to focus my mind, rededicate my life to him in a way that was like deeper than how I used to because I just didn't have the time to. But he gave me that and he allowed me to like really refocus like everything to him. Yeah. Also in that time it's like when it's just you and God every day and you're like living this quiet life and it's just you and the Father. Like it helps you really take responsibility for your own actions through self-reflection. Like I was able to look at myself and be like, okay, this happened not because they did it, but because you did it. And it's like I think sometimes we're so quick to point fingers at everyone else because we don't want to really look at ourselves and be like, okay, you're something is broken in you that you have to give to God so he can fix. And so in that time I wasn't really conversating with too many people. It was really just me and God a lot. And of course I had my family and everything, but for the most part it was really me spending my time with God. And because of that I wasn't able to be like she did it, he did it, they did it. I was had to be like, okay, you did it because it's really just you and God. So yeah. Um And I think that's also another thing that's really, really cool about living the quiet life is like it feels kind of isolating because it feels lonely in a way. Like when you're not so busy, you really don't get the same interactions how I once did. Like going to school, I used to talk to so many people every day. And then I'll go to work and I'll talk to so many people every day. And then on social media, I would just talking to people or I would like just really experience other people. And so in that moment of in that season of quietness or that season of yeah, I'll say that season of quietness, it was like in a way God kind of isolated me from that. And so I wasn't really interacting with people as much as I was used to. And it kind of felt like lonely in a way. But I feel like that's another way that God gave me grace is because he was truly the only influence in my life at that time. And I feel like sometimes we have so many different opinions in our heads and we have so many different people who are coming and who we are like interacting with and they're always so opinionated. And so it's like you have God saying one thing, but then you go and you hear somebody else saying this or you hear somebody else saying that and it's like now you have this ability to choose, which is beautiful because God gives us choice. But I feel like in that season, God's like, I really want to be the only person feeding you right now because it's like for so long you've had so many different influences in your life, and I want to be the main and I want to be the only one right now. And I feel like in that season, it really allowed me to like grow closer to Him and to really be confident in the fact that He knows what He's doing. Because when you have like a choice between, am I going to choose God or am I going to choose the world? A lot of times we unfortunately choose the world and then we end up going and we end up slipping and falling. And it's like, girl, how'd you fall so far? And you like look up like, dang, I don't even know how I got here. All because we went and chose the wrong, you know, opinion. And so I feel like God was really the only influence I had in that season of my life, which was kind of really amazing because I was just able to say, you know what, God, you said it, I'm gonna listen to it and I'm gonna do it. And I just felt like really successful in that. So yeah. Another thing about living the quiet life, or another thing that I learned in that season of my life. Ooh, yes. These are things that set me back. Not really set me back, but like things that I was dealing with internally in that season because for me, it was quiet, I was isolated, and I also was on social media. And so it's like when you're living or when you're in a season of your life where everything is quiet and you're not doing too much, sometimes I have this fear of falling behind in any way. Like if I'm falling behind when it comes to um my jobs or when it comes to my art or just anything, I have a fear of falling behind. And so like when I'm sitting in the house all day and I go on social media and people are like, traveling or they're doing this or they're out partying with their friends, I feel like, dang, like, I feel like I need to catch up with them in a way. And God had to remind me, like, girl, this life is not your own. You walk this life with me. And so he's like, I'm walking at this pace and you trying to hurry up and pull to catch up with them and you're leaving me behind. Come back because when you're with them, it's like you're running, but you don't have no guide because your guide is behind you. And so it's like, okay, I have to learn how to stop comparing myself to them and stop looking at their lives as a guidebook because my guide is God. And if God is with me in that season, I should really keep my eyes on Him instead of them. So, yeah, that's another really important thing that I had to learn in that season. Also, I keep looking down, sorry guys, because I'm looking at my notes because I really want to make sure I stay on course. Yeah, another thing that I experienced in that season was loneliness because yeah, I would say it was another season where I had to be isolated. I sometimes get not really used to it, but I've experienced seasons where God had to isolate me for a very long time. Like my testimony started off with me being in isolation during COVID, where I experienced things like depression and anxiety and loneliness and bitterness and unforgiveness. And God really had to transform my heart through that season of isolation and through that season of loneliness. And again, last year I did experience that again where it gets kind of lonely, um but because of the way that I got closer to God through that loneliness is like when I'm lonely now I don't really feel lonely for real. Like I'm alone but I'm not lonely because I began because God showed me how much of a friend He is to me, and He showed me like just that I ought to be satisfied with Him alone, even if I never have another friend a day in my life. Like, He is the one who I consider a true friend. And of course, I have true friends outside that God has blessed me with. But if they were to go, I would still have a true friend in Him. And so it's like I have to remember that, okay, this is just a season right now. And you might not have a whole bunch of people to talk to. You might not have, what you once felt like you needed. But now it's like, okay, yeah, I might not have that, but I still have Him, and He is more than enough. And anything that He gives me on top of that is just a blessing. So, yeah, I have a lot of notes. Another thing that I learned in that season of my life is oh, yes, boredom. It's not, I didn't learn it, but I experienced it. And this is what I learned through that. Okay, I feel like in that season, because everything, like, you're just really, it's quiet, it's not too much to do, it can get very boring because we're so used to living that up pace and fast life. And so when things get quiet, we kind of compare quietness to boredom. And I feel like it shouldn't have to be like that because I feel, yeah, it shouldn't have to be that way, especially when it comes to living with God. I think in that season, one thing that helped me is to really, honestly, I found hobbies. Yes, I found a lot of hobbies. I was like painting, I picked up the guitar, I made a whole entire short film. Like, I found hobbies that really kind of embodied who I am as a person. Like, I paint, I draw, I play the piano and the guitar, I film, I do photography. I do like a lot of different hobbies that kind of resonate with who I am. And I think that through in that season I was able to really reconnect with those hobbies. And I even found some new ones like, girl, what did I do? Is watching TV a hobby? I think it is in a way. In a way it is. I yeah, I was watching TV. What am I saying? Anyways, like I was saying, yes, like in that season, because you do have a lot of time in your hands. And I would just, I'll find a hobby, find something that you're interested in doing, and also do it with God. Like, I would be like, God, okay, I want to paint this picture. What do you think it should look like? Or I would just consider Him in all things because God, He's interested in what you're interested in. And He wants to He wants you to walk with Him. And I think sometimes we can like really isolate it's like we give certain pieces of our lives to Him. But then when it comes to things like, oh, my hobbies or all my friendships or all my relationships, we don't often surrender that to Him. And I feel like if we do, we start to realize that He really is interested in what we got going on, and that He's not just like, oh, forget about your hobbies, forget about your friends. I don't care. I want you to serve me in the church. He knows that you're a person and that your life is complex, and He's interested in each and every area of it. And so when it comes to my hobbies, I'll be painting with Jesus, and I'll paint and I'll like listen to worship music, or I'll play the guitar and I'll learn a worship song, or I'll watch a TV show and talk to God about what I learned through it. And it just like, it really keeps me interested, and it keeps me wanting and desiring more of Him, because I know that like, dang, He really loves me and He really wants to spend time with me. And I feel like that is something that I learned in that season, is that God is so well rounded. And if you think about it, He created me, He created you, He created everything, He created the hobbies that we like. And so it's so crazy how we think that God isn't interested in something that He created. That's a word. That's a word. What time is that? Yep, we keeping that. All right. A story that God gave me to talk about and that reminded me of this is the story of Martha and Mary, when the disciples came to the house and they were, Martha was in the kitchen and she was cooking and cleaning and she was stressing out and she was very busybodied. And Mary was like submitted and sitting at the feet of Jesus. And Martha, she was mad because she felt like she had no help and she was doing so much and she was struggling, and she was like, she came up to Jesus and she was like, Jesus, do you not care? Like, I'm up here cooking and slaving away, and Mary isn't helping me. And Jesus is like, girl, calm down. He didn't say, girl, calm down, but he's like, let me read it actually. Okay. So it says in Luke 10:40, it says, but Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me. And what Jesus said in response to this is, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part, which will not be taken away from her. And I feel like this is a very powerful scripture, because Martha, she wasn't necessarily in the wrong because she was trying to serve, but she got so focused on serving and so focused on acting and doing and being that she wasn't present with God. And I feel like sometimes we get so consumed with being busybodied and being self righteous and working and working and working. And sometimes God just wants us to be present with Him. He doesn't want us to have to be going here and going there and doing this and doing that. He just wants us to be present. And I think that's one of the greatest reasons why He had me in that season. And that's one of the greatest things that I learned while being in that season, is the importance of being present with God. Because truly, it's like He just wants that. And I think that that's something that's really amazing, that He wanted to spend that time with me, and that He wanted me to be there, and that He invited me there. And I think that that's really all I gotta say. Yeah. So, if you're in a season in which you feel isolated or you feel very calm or a season in your life that's just very quiet, I invite you to really be present with God and to don't fight it, to embrace it, because it's an invitation for you to go closer to Him and for you to get to know more about Him. And for Him, He already know more about you. But yeah. So I love you guys. I thank you, God, for this word because that really just filled my heart with so much joy to really just be a vessel. So I love you. And it's now time for the Christian Entertainment Chart or the CEC. Yeah, I wrote it down, y'all. Okay. So over this past few week, over this past week, I have been binge watching this podcast. It's called With the Perrys or 30 Minutes with the Perrys. These Jackie Hill Perry, I just bought her book. I'm only on day one and it's already getting good. I just bought that book and I bought another book. I'm gonna post it on my Instagram. So if you want like any updates on how I think of it, follow my Instagram, Always and Forever Podcast. Yeah. Jackie Hill Perry and Preston Perry, I absolutely love them. I've been watching them for almost a year now. Like I started last year when I was really praying over this podcast and trying to see if this was the way in which I should go, which I thank God that it is because I love it. Um, yes, I love their podcast. They talk about some real authentic stuff. It was a season in my life where I felt like every time I turned on this podcast, I felt like I was next to fire and I was like, "Ooh, they really getting me." Like they was getting me. And I had to look at myself in the mirror and had to really submit some things to God through them. Or not through them, but because they really, was being so honest and authentic. Yeah. A song is number 2. The song is called Indescribable by Kira Sheard. I have heard this song all throughout my childhood, but I I don't know what was going on in my life over this week. Like I don't know, but this was just playing in my mind a lot this week, and it's such a powerful song. So I just encourage you to listen to it. Yeah. Number 3 is I'll have to find it. Yes. Okay, number 3 is another podcast called Deep End with the Cray. I watched this podcast when I was doing my hair because I be having a lot of time on my hands when I'm like braiding. I love braiding my own hair. It's kind of therapeutic in a way. It's another one of my hobbies that I learned and have grown in with God. So, amen. Yeah, I watched this podcast and it was really good. Like, y'all, they be asking some good questions on these podcasts and they kind of encouraging me because what if I want to go out and do an interview one day? I might. So yeah. I love you guys so much. I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye.